IVM.
Hey everybody, we're going to do another rebroadcast of Shunya 1 this week. We had a really great episode a couple of months ago, or actually almost a year ago now, with Anuj Tandon. Anuj is the CEO of Yoozoo Games, and he is one of the smartest guys I've ever met who talks about gaming and what its impact is, what the business models are, and basically how technology impacts different gaming platforms. It's a really fun conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Let's get you on with that.
All right, so today we have Anuj Tandon, the CEO at Yoozoo Games India.
Thanks for having me, Shiladitya.
Yes. All right, so it's finally good to have you. You've come down all the way from Pune, where all the happening things in gaming are going on, I think.
I think so, yes.
That's why you've chosen to be there.
Is he our first out-of-town guest?
No, Miten was from Delhi.
Okay, I guess so.
But yes, although you're closer by, I
Yes.
think the trek to Bombay is harder. But thanks so much for doing this, Anuj. So just to give you a little background, Anuj, after of course starting out in Infosys and Tech Mahindra, like a lot of people do, went on and started his first company, which was Rebroadcast Games.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So you've been a gaming entrepreneur since then, 2010.
Yeah, almost now 7.5 years into gaming,
Yeah, so after Rebroadcast, you went on to be the head of mobile game publishing and marketing at Nazara, which is making the news.
Yes, probably be the first gaming IPO in India.
Yeah. And now you're the CEO at Yoozoo Games in the country, and Yoozoo's a big brand.
Yeah, it's just a $4 billion valuation company. So pressure is good. So it's a big one. Yeah.
So let's jump right into that. So
sure.
How did you get into gaming? The story so far, and I think what a lot of people don't know, which we'll talk about later in the show, is what is the big business? You just mentioned a big number right here, and what is the business of gaming? So we'll get into that, but why don't you tell us about the story and how it all happened for you?
Sure. So I think as all Indians, middle-class Indians at growing up in the 90s, we all played Mario. We started off with the Nintendo SNES systems, and we played Mario, Duck Hunt, and all these kind of games. And then what happened was, for majority of Indians, we skipped the console cycle. As to say, because of the high hardware and software costs, we did not buy the PS and the Xbox when they originally came. Yep. Only a few people in Tier 1 and metros actually got exposed to them. And PC games were still a thing, right? FIFA, Age of Empires, Counter-Strike. These were the games that people got exposed to, and that was the same for me. And around 1998 was when I first played my FIFA game, first FIFA, and that was when I actually, after the Marios, I fell in love with gaming again, right? And that being said, in engineering college, we had competitions every year for gaming. It was called Nippon and I College, where we organized FIFA, Age of Empires, all these kind of games, competitions, and tournaments and stuff like that. And I was in the hostel, boys' hostel, and the only thing you do in boys' hostel is two things. First thing I won't mention. Second thing, you play games. So we kind of played a lot of games, and then that was the interest point also. But then, like a typical guy, I got a job in Infosys, did not know what to do with it, so I joined it.
That's a typical guy, engineering grad, got job in Infosys. So yes.
And then we had the money to actually buy a PlayStation, right? So me and my roommates used to play a game all night and then report to office late almost every day. There was always a thought that this is such an industry, but the thought to join or to make games was never there, right? The opportunity came in 2010. I was working through emphasis at British Telecom in London for about 1.5 years. And I came back, I was preparing for my MBA, gave my GMATs. And then when my roommate from my previous times and my friend Rohit sort of came back from US, we saw an opportunity when the iPhone had just released.
Oh, yes.
Around 2009. Yeah. So the App Store had just started making some business of it. And, the first Fart App millionaire had happened, right?
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So that was the time when we thought, hey, why don't we make games for the iPhone? And that's when we started the journey of, when that entrepreneurial idea came in, and we started off in 2010 officially, and we made some really, really good games. We made games on sports because I was a big sports game fan. And the first game that we made was a game of squash on mobile, right? Wow. Because we were thinking of unique ideas as to what to do, and tennis was already done.
All right, so squash.
Squash. We were the first squash game on mobile. Yeah, wow. And we got sponsorship from Dunlop. So that was a good thing at that time. It made us some money, and it validated, hey, we can do a business around this.
Right.
And then we did the world's first badminton game, and then moved on to tennis and other things as well. But that's how the journey started of, getting into games at Rollicule. And that was the starting point. After that, when we did a badminton game and a tennis game, we sort of got into the world of, how do we scale this up? And then at that time, venture capital and these things have started to, come. And we did not realize, how will we get investment and things like that. So we started attending conferences like every entrepreneur would do. And we got selected into, it was called Power of Ideas, Economic Times,
I remember that.
2010. And we got incubated by IIM Ahmedabad, CIA. And there we got initial funding of 20-25 lakhs. We got our first office, got a first team, hired some freshers, started making more games.
And all this while it was just you guys coding with a small team?
Yes, just 3 interns and for the artwork and programming and then the business and marketing side of it.
Wow.
Yeah, and post that, it was around 2012 when we got our first round of investment from Mumbai Angels and Bloom Ventures.
Nice.
We raised close to around $300,000. And that was our first round of investment. And so we expanded the team, had a full-time office. We had around 10 to 15 people. We made more games. They did decently well on the App Store. But at that time, around 2012, if you see, the App Store had evolved a lot.
Right.
From paid games that were doing well, the new concept of in-app purchases and freemium games had started coming over. And at that time, around 2013, 2014, we also did something really cool. What we did was we built a technology called as Roller Motion. Now, what that did was, if you have any smartphone and you have a Chromecast or an Apple TV, you could downloading our game, you could play it with motion gestures using the accelerometer gyroscope. So your smartphone became a Nintendo Wii.
Yeah, the smartphone became the controller and the screen was the television screen.
Television, because you could AirPlay it or Chromecast it to your screen.
So this is proprietary tech you guys built?
Yes.
This sort of a system?
Yeah. So this was really, really cool stuff that we did, right? And we were probably one of the first companies globally to have executed it to a level. We got a lot of attention. We got TechCrunch like 4 times in a year.
Wow.
During that time, we won the Edison Award in San Francisco for the most innovative invention of 2014. Wow. Award was given by Elon Musk.
Wow. So you met Elon Musk?
Not me, my co-founder. Yeah. So, and it was pretty, there's a very funny story around that. And I always, this is one of the great startup stories that I have in my life, is that we had made an amazing pitch video targeted at Apple. Right? Because we did this for Apple first. We had an amazing pitch video where we said, hey, we love Apple TV and, this is the stuff, this is the technology. We are using so much of the Apple ecosystem to make, gaming great. And then I sort of went through LinkedIn, made an actual org chart from whatever data I could find, and I started finding email addresses of all the guys who could take decisions, right? And I started hustling and sort of cold emailing every one of them. Wow. One hit. And we got a call on Saturday morning. That was probably Friday night in Cupertino. Yeah. And he said, hey, Anuj, we liked the video. We saw your video. And hey, so I'm free at Tuesday, 11 a.m. So let's come at this office. I'm sending you a meeting request. We'd love to talk to you. I assumed, do they think we are in San Francisco sitting? We could just walk in at Tuesday 11 a.m. We said, we didn't respond and say, okay, no problem. We'll see you at Tuesday 11 a.m. And then we were scampering for tickets. We were actually had a layover at Hong Kong. We went fly through Cathay, and there was an 8-hour layover. Okay. And the team was working in the office because we had the product. It was not 100% ready. We just sent a pitch video. We were hoping, it might hit, it might not hit.
Right.
And at the 8-hour layover, we were testing the game. We actually had the Mac, and we had a dancing game and a tennis game. Both two Indian guys in Hong Kong airport dancing with their phones in their hand, testing their product.
While looking at a laptop.
And it was really funny, right? And then we reached Tuesday 11. We showed the product, and Apple loved it. We met the Apple TV team, and they loved it. And we got great support from Apple. We were probably one of the first companies to really get great support from the product team. We got great support from when we launched, from the App Store team. We got featured for 2 weeks consistently in global markets.
Wow.
Made the top 100 grossing charts in US in games. First Indian company to do that. Wow. And things were looking good at that time. Yeah. But again, the model was pretty much a paid game. Right. Which was an industry in itself dying because people did not want to pay upfront for content, right? But that was a really great moment in terms of our startup.
Yeah, man, this is like a crazy, awesome story.
Yeah, I know, this is the fun stuff.
Yeah. So that was fun. And then similarly, we were, for Chromecast when we did this, we again called up by Google, and we were showcased by one of the first Indian startups to be showcased by Google I/O at Mountain View.
Wow.
And they had a booth where the Google employees were showcasing this technology, and we were mentioned in talks and stuff.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool stuff, and that's how we came the top 10 startups, met Mr. Modi in 2014 at a NASCOM event, and that was the cool stuff. The problem here was, if you look at the business side of things, the market was dependent on, say, a Chromecast or an Apple TV.
Okay.
Which did not grow as we had thought it would grow, right? Mm-hmm. And when your product is dependent on a technology which is not in your hand, scaling becomes very difficult.
Right.
I also think Apple TV and Chromecast have basically, their use cases have become extremely narrow. People only use them to watch content, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but there is a push by Apple for gaming.
Yeah.
Google has not anymore not push gaming anymore, but Apple still does push gaming.
Okay.
But even if you look at the keynotes that Apple does every year, they have one section for Apple TV and gaming as well.
Okay.
So they are still trying to push it. But the push is, the market is just too small to make a big business around it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was still a niche market.
I think it's small, even from just the number of people who are using these things. People who use them love them, but I mean, very, very few people I've come across use them. I mean, even in the tech space, I find most people are like, I have a smart TV, I'm fine.
Yeah, and not just that, but also how much time can you dedicate to gaming on the smart TV? Which is, again, not a personal device,
It's
right?
not. It becomes the same as a console, right? I mean, it's a console replacement in its way.
So we were positioning it as a family gaming device, like the Nintendo Wii.
Yeah.
Right.
Nintendo Wii is a very social, casual experience with the family and friends in front of a TV. That's what we were positioning it. The positioning was correct. I think just the market factors were not in our control. And that's where we lost out. And then the story happened that 2015, we sort of again pivoted back to making freemium games. Mm-hmm. And by that time, the freemium gaming market had matured to a level where the user acquisition costs of, you had all the Kings and the Supercells who were spending close to $200-300 million on user acquisition every year.
You mean like paid advertising, basically.
Paid advertising.
Right.
And even if you had a great game and you got featured by Apple, and we did that, we got Editor's Choice by Apple, right? That effect lasted for like a month. and then you had to pump in UA money to get your games up again, right? Even if it made sense or did not make sense at that time to spend so much. And we needed more capital injection from VCs. But at that time, the gaming market had matured so much for the global audience that we couldn't find enough traction. That's when me and my partner had a sort of a different view on how we should take this forward strategically. And we did not see eye to eye as to where we want to take this. And I sort of moved out and joined Nazara. Yeah. And that was a different ballgame because then you're making games for the Indian market.
Oh, okay. So you guys were at Rollicle were not really addressing Indian market per
Not
se.
really, yeah. It was more global.
Nazara by then, how had Nazara come up by the time you jumped on board?
Nazara is a very old company, right?
Yeah.
It's a 17-year-old company started by Nitish. He's a very battle-hardened entrepreneur.
It started as something non-gaming, right? It started as like some sort of portal kind of business, if I'm not mistaken. Then it moved to gaming very quickly. Yeah. But I remember that from like way back in that it was like... I think it's called Nazara because it was like, I think it was a movie website or something like that. Am I wrong about that?
I think it started off as a content play,
but
focused on gaming.
Okay.
Gaming focus was always there of Nitish, but he obviously in his journey, he will be able to explain better as to what are the pivots and why the pivots happen.
But at the time you joined, right? It was a hardcore gaming company focused on India. Growing.
I would not say hardcore because in gaming, hardcore means something else.
Right. I should be careful with my terms here.
So it was a casual gaming company focused on India.
All right.
Right. So it has a very huge India focus, and they are also global with their product. Like they are basically catering to markets like Middle East, Africa, LATAM, and India. So my focus, along with they had a new CEO as well, Manish Agarwal from Reliance Games had joined there, and then I joined as the head of mobile game publishing and marketing. The vision was to really create a market, products for the Indian market, and because the number of users in the Indian market are growing crazily, like we are still number 2 on the download charts of games globally.
Wow,
in India. Okay. Right, as per Google Play. So that is an opportunity in itself that people are interested, they are downloading stuff. Whether they pay or not pay is the second part of the story. But the huge install play, obviously there is a business model of using ads to sort of
get installs.
Make money out of those installs.
Yep.
Right. So that was the focus of that. And in the year I was there, we sort of managed to, from nowhere, we were the only Indian publisher in the top 10 in the list of App Annie, Indian publisher in that list of top free games.
Wow. So, which games were these? I mean, which still remain Nazara's, I would say, hallmark games?
Nazara, the strategy that we had was using IP, popular IP that you have in India. So we signed up kids IPs like Chota Bheem, Motu Patlu. All these worked really, really well for us. We also have signed like Virat Kohli.
Oh, nice.
Hrithik Roshan. So all these guys we had signed. So we would have a game and on these IPs, and then that will help us gain traction among the people who are coming new to gaming. Right. So if you're a smartphone owner in India, you would rather search for content which is with IP than to say try a game which is without IP. That was the thought process that we had. And we're not talking about the tier 1s here. We're talking about the tier 2, tier 3 cities where the actual growth of smartphone is now happening. Right? That we say that IP is more relatable for them to try a gaming product.
Like the brand or the brand name of the person or the product is something they start their intent with, right?
Yes. So the acquisition becomes easier.
Like movie, I'm guessing movie games and stuff like that too.
Movie games also, but like we have but these are the problem with movie games. So they are time-based events.
Right.
Games have a longer life
right.
than say for movie games. Right. So even if you see globally, if you look at Kim Kardashian game, it's not based on her serial.
Right.
It's based on her life completely. So you have a longer play to play. Whereas if you look at even like the Marvels and they do movie based promotions.
Right.
But the game lasts much longer.
Right.
So you have to use the IP for the complete franchise.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, like, Star Wars is the same kind of thing, right? Where they have Star Wars games, which are wider universe games, but then when there's a movie coming in, they'll start throwing in stuff which is movie related.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the problem with movie-based games, it's like 2-week curve that you get good numbers on downloads, but then it dies down if the game doesn't have legs in it. Whereas if you have an IP, like say a Virat Kohli, you would make a game, and then when he's hit 100 or he's going on a World Cup, you can have in-game events which are hugely hyped up at that point of time.
Wow. Yeah.
So
all of these are obviously market linked. I would say marketing opportunities, and hence you weave your content into your product, right? So, but gaming as I wanted to pick on one point you just said. So the tier 2 and tier 3, right? When they look at gaming is after all recreational. It's a recreational activity, right? So is it in the same vein as looking for, let's say, when you say Virat Kohli's videos or Hrithik Roshan's songs or whatever, right? Do people did you see that people discover gaming as another byproduct of their celebrities branding, or is it like they are looking for games? Like, are they gaming hungry as a segment?
So, Sheila, I answered this a little earlier. Like, number 2 country and globally,
right,
in terms of downloads of games is India, right?
Wow.
So on mobile devices, so people are looking for games to play.
Yeah.
Naturally itself. Now, whether it happens as a byproduct, say for watching a Hrithik Roshan video, or maybe he tweets about a game and people start downloading, that is something which, frankly, when you're doing an IP-based games, you really don't care about. Wherever you get it, you get the numbers, right? But good point. I mean, I've not really thought of it from that perspective, but I still think India is a huge market for gaming right now in terms of downloads as well, and the revenues are also increasing crazily.
Wow. And that's where you basically add Nazara, and Nazara continues to do that, and obviously that's why they're on their way to this big story, right?
Yeah, so Nazara also does, with a huge part of the business is through subscriptions. So a majority of the revenue comes from gaming subscriptions as well, where they partner with various telecom carriers, and the billing happens from there, and the users subscribe. Kind of a little like it used to happen in...
This must be a recent development, though,
no,
right?
No. So this is the old school way of making money in gaming, right? The recent development is making money through Google Play and Apple in-app purchases,
right,
and ads that you run on them. The old school way always was in India to make money through telecom partnerships.
Okay.
When you partner with, say, an Idea or Vodafone and use their billing, they recharge amount as the billing amount, and you get money from these users.
So what kind of subscription games are these? I mean, like, what kind of games, and what is the value that is there in subscription for?
These are mostly aggregated content.
Okay.
So you'll have like 1,001.
Okay.
Like you download one app of, say, Nazara, like such as its Games Club.
Okay.
And you get thousands of games that you can play.
All right.
But you have to pay upfront a subscription fee to keep playing the new content every day.
Nice. Interesting.
So, I mean, this is subscription commerce, and we've spoken about this so many times on this show and in general, which people still say is a challenge. But people like Nazara have been doing this for years now.
And profitably.
And
not just in India, abroad as well.
I think that the reason why we consider it a challenge in most, not to say it's not a challenge here, but carrier billing, right, as opposed to payment gateway billing.
Yes.
So I think that's the kind of key.
Yeah, but carrier billing, apart from gaming, I don't think carrier billing has taken off in any other
value-added services is purely carrier billing, right? And it's a huge part of the teleco's revenues, right? And it is slowed down after Jio. But before that, it was
like caller tunes and all
caller
of that.
Tunes,
right?
Pics, wallpapers, all this is.
Remember, we used to have all of those stores inside the phone itself, the store for this stuff. So all that was like through this only. Now you buy it. And
in 2000, we had these 4. We used to call it ABCDs, right? Astrology, Bollywood, cricket, devotional. This is the content of VAS that used to sell a lot.
I think it still does.
It does. It's still ABCD.
It's just format has changed.
No, it's still ABCD is still a term I hear all the time when I'm talking to people about like content plans and stuff like that.
Wow. All right. So I think, this is the side of India also, which a lot of people don't know, right?
Yes.
I mean, especially us folks in tier 1, we understand gaming, but we don't understand what makes gaming so big, like what's behind the scenes in all of this. And there are people, so again, there are people from tier 2, tier 3 who are paying this.
Yes, they are. And not just in India, right? You have, for Nazara, one of the biggest markets was Africa as well. So they had aggregated content of EA, WWE, and all these IPs. And they were selling in Africa and Middle East pretty well for subscription-based games. And that's how the content play for them worked. So post that, that is last year, then around exactly same time, I quit Nazara because I got the opportunity to sort of head Yoozoo Games India. And always it's aspirational because these are now gaming companies who are making money through in-app purchases.
So the next wave.
Yes, so it's already here. It's just that in India, there are a few companies who are doing it and have reached some success here. But especially in China, when we talked about this also, Sheila, that the scale is just
a whole different.
It's a different beast. You have a $10 billion top line, 2016 by Tencent, right? 4 billion of NetEase, all from games. Honor of Kings, one of Tencent's top game in China. In China alone has a DAU of 80 million.
Wow.
It's a hardcore game. It's like people are killing each other with fantasy characters, right?
Wow. So, okay, we're gonna take a quick break here and come back. But this is, I think, where the conversation gets interesting because this is where you're talking about the big league of gaming, right? So we're gonna come back and chat some more.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You know, we've been doing this for a couple of weeks, and I think it's working out quite well. If you're enjoying the show that you're listening to, why don't you do this? Pause the show, take a screenshot, and post it to your Instagram stories. Tag us on IVM Podcast, and leave us a comment for what you think about the show that you're listening to. We'll post that to our story so that, everybody can see what's going on, who's listening to what. Also, I have another little announcement. We are finally launching our new version of our Android app. It's going to be out officially and properly. It's going to move out of beta. So if you are listening to us on the old app, it might be time for you to kind of look for the new one. Unfortunately, it's not going to update from the old app. You're going to need to re-download the app or reinstall the app from the new listing. You'll be able to get the new app. You'll get a link for that from either the show description of the show that you're listening to, or you could go to our website and there'll be a link over there. So we launched a new show called How to Citizen. It is hosted by policy professional Meghnad S. and comedian Shreyas Manohar. Every episode is a look back at a chapter from an 8th standard civics textbook. The first episode featuring Rohan Joshi is out now. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus talks to author Amrita Mahale. She discusses her debut novel, Milk Teeth, and how growing up in the suburbs of Mumbai influenced her story. On Paisa Vaisa, P.V. Subramaniam, a financial trainer who runs the popular blog Subramani.com, discusses the math of retirement planning. On the Republic Day special of Pulyabazi, the hosts throw a light on the works of Dr. Ambedkar and discuss how caste has played a role in the history of India. On the second episode of Golgappa, Trupti is joined by actress Mansi Joshi. Mansi shares how working with some of the finest co-actors and directors helped her shape her acting talent. On our Kannada podcast, Thale Harate, the discussion is about the power of the Kannada consumer and their rights to demand services in their own language. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
All right, welcome back. And I think let's just jump in directly into the big story behind gaming, which I think now is coming out in the press and people are taking note of it, although it's been huge for so many years now.
Sure.
So at Yoozoo, right? So Yoozoo is one of those big giant $4 billion companies in gaming, which is entering India. And obviously you have big plans for India.
Sure.
And but they're still one of the very many bigger ones.
Yeah.
Right. So how did these companies get so big, and how did this happen, and what's the future like for this big business of gaming?
Right. So if you just isolate India at the moment, right, the majority of revenue that is going to come from, say, 2018 is going to be from Asia, and China's the biggest revenue generator country-wise. If you look at, the amount of people who play games there. So unlike us who missed a console cycle and the hardcore cycle, China actually had a lot of hardcore PC gaming companies that were there, right? And that's why if you see some of these companies called as Tencent, NetEase, all these big names, they were already present in gaming before the mobile wave came in, right? And the traction that all these guys, including Tencent, Yoozoo, NetEase, all these see is the Indian market is exactly how the Chinese mobile gaming market was in 2012, 2013, where initially the casual stuff was working. The DAUs were only in, say, running games like Temple Run, Subway Surfers, all these running games, driving games, car games. It's huge in India, right? Need for Speed was also a big thing in India. So is car racing games. Still, they have a lot of DAUs in India. So all these casual genres, so we call it, were big in China in 2012, 2013. And suddenly something happened in 2014 where these guys got replaced by mid-core and hardcore stuff. And then the revenue on mobile just started exploding over there. And every quarter they had like 300% growth.
Wow.
For about 2-3 years.
So just to go understand mid-core, hardcore without it, whatever we can talk about.
Yes.
This is, again, so is this because you're moving from the traditional single player gaming to multiplayer?
Yes.
Is that's also a factor in this revenue
so
angle? Right?
It's very difficult to define casual, mid-core, hardcore as such, right? So I'll just give you an analogy. Like if you're talking about casual right now in India, you have Ludos, which is a casual genre of gaming. You have the Subway Surfers, Temple Runs, which is a casual genre of gaming. Mid-core-ish, I would put it on the border, is something like Candy Crush. It's still not it's not very casual because people really become addicted to it and they keep on playing and they pay for playing more. At least some of them do. It's still earning $2 billion. And then there is the mid-core side of things like Clash of Clans. Clash of Clans is pretty mid-core, where people pay a lot of money for in-app purchases, and it's still not hardcore. Now, hardcore is something like with genres which we call as role-playing games, which are very art-heavy, fantasy elements heavy, killing heavy, and the audience for this is very small. These are probably the console guys who are coming to mobile for some good content, because now mobile, the quality of the stuff that you can put on a mobile has greatly increased. Right, and that is the hardcore stuff. Some of the games that we have in the hardcore stuff is called Legacy of Discord. It's a Yoozoo game. It's now last month it earned close to $42 million in a month, revenue wise.
Wow.
So these are small set of people who are playing this game. The daily active user of casual will be the highest.
Right.
Mid-core will be lesser than casual, and hardcore will be the least. But if you look at the in-app purchase revenue, it is absolutely opposite story.
Okay.
You have the most paying users in the hardcore, then you have in the mid-core, and then you have in the casual.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's how these things.
That makes sense to me. I mean, like when I play a casual game, I make a point of it. Part of the thing is not to pay for it.
Yes.
But when I'm playing like a more intricate game, at that point it's just like, nah, if I need to buy this, I'll buy this. I need to buy this, I'll buy this. I won't even think about it in terms of just like, you'll just buy whatever you need.
Sure. So, but that is you are one of an exception, because cricket is still not considered mid-core in India because no game has been able to monetize through in-app purchases that well. So let me just give you examples of some mid-cores, right? Social Casino, Teen Patti is we would call it as a mid-core. People play it for fun, but there are some people who are really addicted to it and they will pay to buy chips in the game.
Yeah.
Right? There's no cash out, but they're still playing.
Yeah, people bought Zynga. I remember people.
Yeah,
bought
Zynga Poker.
Yeah,
it's a
same
mid-core.
kind of this. Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, again, since we jumped into actual payments in games, right?
Yeah.
So mid-core and hardcore as a reference to is obviously how involved a gamer is in with the game, right?
Exactly.
So when you say India as a market, again coming back to the story where people are using games for recreation and phones are getting better, so you can do more complex games. All of these factor into the story.
Yeah.
And obviously this has happened earlier years in China and all these
and
other
Western markets as well. Yeah.
Right? But the sheer volume which you're talking about, the numbers here, like the billions of dollars in revenue which you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
This, I think, is very unique to the gaming sector.
Yeah.
Because no other mobile app sort of makes these sort of numbers, right? No, as a sector, do you see these individual apps making this amount of money?
So I think now if you look at the top grossing charts across, you will see, at least globally, things like Tinder, Netflix are now ranking above games for the first time. This has happened in the last year, and that is partly due to the subscription billing in these markets that have really taken off.
Right.
So I would say
before that it wasn't the case. It was all games everywhere.
And if you look at comparatively, games are still making more money on App Store than any other category of the apps that are there. So yes, you're right. Games have a tendency to make more money, but the point why people love to play games has been like, initially every tech, if you look at it, right, two biggest industries that adopt to any technology are porn and gaming, right? They are the innovators of any new platform that comes in, whether it is VR, AR, whatever. You'll see games and the porn industry really taking it to it and innovating. They're
on the cutting edge of tech, right, or using tech.
Because I think globally, if you look at the gaming revenues in countries like UK, it's more than even the movie industry or things like that, right? Even Hollywood falls short or goes neck on neck with the gaming
I think
revenues.
it crossed in like 2015. Gaming went higher than Hollywood did.
Exactly. So things like this. So it has been a huge industry. It's just not a very, very sort of predictable industry, right? Like the VC industry. So if you're making like 10 games, and there is a cycle, there's a chance that all 10 might just flop, or one just becomes a big hit and it sort of takes care of the other games that you are publishing, right? But the business of making games, and there are two kinds of people in games, right? One are the guys who are the really creative kinds, who really want to make really good games, and they make games for themselves and people like themselves,
like storytellers, more like people who make movies, and
like indie filmmakers, right? And they are also called indie game developers, right? They have a market for themselves, and they are people who really enjoy making games, and they love it. And then there are the blockbusters, right? Like the movie studios and things like
the Salman Khans of games.
Yes, in a way, right? And these are the guys who are like Candy Crushes. Match 3 games were there before as well, right? It's not like you didn't play Match 3 games, but then King came with Candy Crush, did a few tweaks in the game design, and just took off. Right. So they are not really the indie types. They are more of the studio types who want to make
the formula based.
The and then there are very few companies which are actually got the mix right. They are creative as well as very, very focused on revenues. Supercell is a great example of that. They make great games. They innovate a lot in games, and they also make massive revenues, right? And the process, like, if we know how many games at Supercell have really made it big, there are 4, right? Heyday, Boom Beach, Clash of Clans, and Clash Royale. 4, right?
And we're not even talking about Zynga, which you just mentioned, which used to be the sort of the leader in this.
But no, Zynga was social games. No, it was a different thing. They were never really mobile. Their mobile games suck. Sorry.
But now they're making a comeback. The last
so it's the next wave. So just sorry, I cut you off. So but Supercell.
So for the 4 games that they made, they killed 42 games.
Wow.
Okay.
So they made 42 games and they released 4.
Okay. And so the others didn't even make it to market.
They didn't make it to the market. Not even to tests.
Wow. That's interesting. I mean, like, if you already put in all the work, why would you not put them out?
That's how obsessed they are about product quality and consumer focus, right? So they have got that balance absolutely right. And very few companies have been able to achieve that, right? And
but that goes to show how deeply involved a gaming product development cycle is also. Like,
it is
making a game
tells me something of not exactly the opposite, but it kind of leads me into like a slightly different context, because if the amount of effort that goes into making each individual game is so high, how can you only release 1 out of 10? I mean, like, as a guy making content, right? I mean, like, it's not the same, but it's different.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, like, 1 out of 10, isn't that means that you can afford to throw away 10 things you're doing and release 1 of them. I mean, like, that means that the amount of effort that goes into each individual game that you're making can justify that, right?
Yes.
And that's a tough thing to justify. I couldn't justify that over here, that if we do 10 episodes and I only release one of them, I could not justify that here.
Yeah, so a lot of people cannot do that.
Yeah.
It's just the culture of Supercell as such.
Yeah, exactly,
That they have made this. For example, another company, Finnish company, is Rovio, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So their biggest hit, Angry Birds, was this 50-second game.
Yeah.
So they
After releasing 51.
So they released 51
Right,
games.
right.
Bounce was very popular in Nokia, but
Yeah.
51 games and then 50-second game
Is the
Angry
one
Birds, and
which took it
then
off.
made that really big. So if you look at you're having 10 episodes, maybe one or two really takes off.
Right.
But you are still releasing 10 episodes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
different approaches, different culture as to how you want to play that game.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but it just sounds like kind of.
But that's the hard call, I guess those guys had
Yeah,
to
it
take,
is.
right?
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't know if they did that from day one.
They did that from day one because they had $40 million in
Exactly.
bank.
So that
gives you
answers your question.
That gives you the
Why
ability
don't
to do
you
a lot of
get
things.
a few $1 million and you start throwing away episodes?
Then I'll start throwing away episodes. $40 million, come on down, and then we'll start throwing away episodes.
Yeah, but then that's the very difficult part, right? For VCs as well, which horse do you back in gaming, right? You have to have a great team, great experience to sort of get that.
And so many other things have to go right.
Yeah.
Huh? I mean, you can have the best team. It's like saying, again, just since you used a movie analogy, it's like saying you get the best actors and directors and everyone and give them a lot of money and expect that they'll come with something which audience likes.
Yeah.
But we've seen the best guys also have
It happens,
duds.
yeah. It's part of content, right? I mean, like some is going to work and some is not going to work. You just have to look at what you're doing and just constantly reevaluate and move from there. So I guess their reevaluation process includes let's not release, which is. I'm sorry, man. It just seems really tough to me to kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're probably one of the top gaming companies globally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coming back to one of the points you mentioned about gaming being one of the industries on the cutting edge of tech, right? So you obviously were building some really cutting edge tech at Rollercoils because you saw that this is a whole new user experience which you could deliver.
Yeah.
What kind of tech is happening today? I mean, I know VR and AR is the buzzwordy sort of tech which everyone hears about. But what's happening on the insides? Like you're inside a large gaming company which is global. What's the cutting edge tech that you guys are using beyond obviously the huge amount of cloud-based computing you guys have to do and the number crunching and so on. So what can you tell us about the tech behind the scenes?
So last 2 years has been like synchronous multiplayer games have been the challenge that most gaming companies are trying to solve on mobile, right? And they have been very successful in doing that. Like the genres like MOBA, which is a lot of people play games. You make teams of 5 people who battle against 5 against each other, and it happens live, right? And that's happening on mobile, right? And making that all possible, synchronizing across various data connections and stuff like that is some of the key innovations happening in the gaming world right now, apart from AR and VR, which is also being done. So this is, I think, the single most biggest tech challenge. And the second is, I think, data. Gaming has now become a lot of science. It has a lot of science as well as the creative side of it. It has a lot of data, number crunching, and constantly doing live ops to improving your numbers, right? Running live events across servers and things like that to really make money, to increase your revenues, right? So, for example, Legacy of Discord, when we started off with just $1 million a month, now we've come to $42 million a month, right? It's not like it has all happened organically. There are things that you have done in the game. You have launched certain things. You have worked on it to make it happen. So,
and it's like this continuous, intense cycle. You have to like measure everything and tweak just the right thing.
Exactly. Right from which character costume is selling the most. So increasing the price on that, from that, and which 2 warriors are not matched properly. Like, for example, in MOBA, you have 42 warriors to select. So you select 5 and you form a strategy against 5, right? And if one character is extremely powerful. He starts getting picked a lot, and they start winning, right? So you have to keep balancing the powers of one character all the time on the fly, so that you keep the game as fair as possible, and then you price the content which people want to buy the stuff.
There's so many angles to this. It's just insane.
It is. It's a really the amount of psychology and stuff that you guys study is really impressive to me, right? I mean, like addiction studies and stuff like that. I mean, like addiction scientists are like now being recruited into gaming companies all the time.
I agree, and that's one of the difference that I have working in a bigger company like Yoozoo, right? We have in the product team, we have a product research team of around 50 people.
Okay.
In our HQ in Shanghai, and they study each game of genre which is doing well, and why is it doing well, and their job is every 3 months they need to break down one of the top genre games and break it down like how. Like right from why that does this, which category of user does this, X, Y, Z, and what economy works. It's a crazy experiencing that kind of analysis done on product, or not on the psychology part, but also on the economy part.
Yeah, exactly.
And which mechanics invoke which reaction from gamers.
Wow.
Right, so it's crazy, right? And that kind of exposure is only possible when you have like one or two games which are doing really well, and you can afford a team which can do that.
And you see that with size and scale, right?
Yes.
That's as with any company. When you have that size and scale, you're able to dig deeper as to research what caused it, how can you do better. But it's fascinating, really, that the amount of not just tech but even psychology that you have to understand to be able to build your brand and build your gaming platforms.
It is just crazy,
and that's what is bringing on all the money. So contrasting to now, obviously, the India market, right? So China has seen this massive growth. All of these big brands you spoke about, they all obviously have their eyes on India as a growing mobile market. Yoozoo is one. Tencent is obviously still coming in. Like,
it has
what
already in a way launched a Teen Patti game.
Wow. See, so what's India like, and how has India been? So Teen Patti, since you mentioned, right? I know there were a few companies in the last 5 years have just launched Teen Patti, and they're making a lot of money. And there's a sort of a grey area also in that sense, because some would say it's not legal, and some would say it's a skill-based game, and so on. So what can you tell me about what's happening here?
Sure. So social casino, the word I'm using very carefully is social casino, where that means there is no cash out.
Okay.
That means people are buying in-app purchases like Zynga Poker. They are playing, experiencing it, and they're not getting anything out apart from just fun and vanity in terms of leaderboards. Right? Most of the Teen Patti apps in India are that. They are social casino. There is a real money side of things, but that's in Rummy and Poker. That's separate.
Okay.
But most of the Teen Patti apps are social casino because there people are not allowed to, and anything that violates government policies, anyways, Google and Apple do not allow on their platforms. Right. So
it gets blocked right there.
It gets blocked right there. So Google and Apple are gatekeepers there that what content is allowed as such as well. Social casino has been working. Zynga Poker has been played for last eons of years, and that's the model the Teen Patti apps take. Now for Yoozoo also, social casino is very important sector. Any company that is, like I said, Tencent launched a Teen Patti game. Indian market, the Teen Patti games are still doing really well, right? And after Jio and more options on Google Pay for users to pay using net banking and other things as well, the payments have also increased. So as per App Annie, close to the social casino, the top social casino game in India is making around 50 crores a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So as per App Annie. These numbers obviously will differ from company to company, but that's one of the top games that what is making in India. So that's the Teen Patti part of it.
Right.
Then there is the real money part of it, which is Rummy, and some companies are also doing poker, like Adda 52. They got sold to Delton, and that is a sort of, in my opinion, and it's purely my opinion, is a sort of a grey area,
right?
Because even though they are considered as game of skills. Even something like fantasy cricket, which Dream 11 is also doing, they're considered as a game of skill, and they have a cash out component involved in it, and they are high growth, huge revenues. 50 crores nothing, right? This is the social casino. This part is massive. I'm predicting the top rummy company would be around revenue of 200-300 crores a year.
Wow.
That's my prediction, right? And there's huge money in India for real money gambling. But the problem is gambling as such is a state subject. It's not a central subject. That means every state can have legislation on whether to accept it or ban it, right? And there's obviously a Supreme Court ruling which guides all these states on whether they can ban it or not. And Supreme Court, at least for Rummy, has said that it is a game of skill and it is legal in the last legislation. But that has not stopped someone like the Telangana government to come up with an ordinance that has banned real money gaming overnight.
Yeah, even though the Supreme Court says
yes, so then you have to challenge and the Supreme Court. So it's a little messy,
right.
If you want to on the legal part of it. If you want to get it, that's why I say it's a little grey area, especially for a company like Yoozoo who's a foreign company, wants to come in India. They don't really want to deal with legislations to get their business.
Yeah, I think this is the kind of stuff that is for people who don't mind spending time in court.
Yes. So
there are a lot of people like that.
There are a lot of people like that. There's a lot of money here.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are a lot of people who are willing to spend time in court for this much money.
Yeah.
So for example, Rummy, like us in Telangana, is around 40% of the market of real money Rummy is Telangana.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, and there the game got banned.
Okay.
Overnight. So a lot of massive revenue loss happened for the real money Rummy gaming companies. This happened in August this year.
Wow. Yeah.
So and poker is still smaller in terms of revenue as compared to Rummy in India, definitely much smaller. And poker is even more grayer because Rummy is still considered game of skill by Supreme Court. There has been no ruling for poker globally or in India, which makes it as a...
There have been some global things about poker. That's a game of skill.
I am a little grey on poker, so I will not comment. It's globally, sorry. I take my words back.
I think Amit India knows. Amit, are you playing illegal games every week?
I play games of fun.
I see.
Yes, I don't do illegal things.
Yes, of course not.
Yeah, but they're... But who am I to say what's illegal? They're paying their taxes. They're doing, and if payment gateways and things like that are supporting them, so then there is actually they're doing something legal.
So we've done a podcast with a poker company called Mera Kaam Poker. Please check it out. Sorry, I got to do that. So from what I understand talking to those guys is that there are rules which they have to follow and they have to be fairly careful about them. But things seem to be like kind of, and again, they have to deal with government. So they they deal with the people there.
Yeah.
And it seems fairly stable for them right now. It used to be like 5 years ago, there were a bunch of like really, really shady poker sites, right? Which would just be like, people would do all kinds of weird stuff to get money in and get money out. And like it was, so that was a whole different thing. Now things are a lot more kind of clean.
Yeah. So I believe as a nation, we are moving towards more tolerance towards gambling itself. But it is a subject which evokes high emotions in people.
Yeah.
Right? It's a very polarizing subject.
Yes,
and tomorrow, if one moral guy sitting out of somewhere finds that this is not good, it might just clamp down on our business.
There's no question. There's ridiculous risks.
Or if someone important loses a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's possible, man.
What? I will sue this company and get my money back.
No, but there are crazy risks involved with this, right? Even in more mature places where poker is more accepted, right? In the US, they basically shut all transfers in from poker sites down, and that kind of killed the market completely.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, they're even in places like that, these things they're not that easy. So you have to have an appetite for getting into.
Yeah, that's true.
Dealing with crap if you want to run a poker site, basically.
Right.
But there's a lot of money.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money.
There's a lot of money there.
As it is in gaming. So what's the outlook like? I mean, just to sort of understand going forward for a company like Yoozoo, for everyone else, what's the outlook like? People have more mobiles, more phones, more data. we're still the same country with love for cricket, love for ABCD.
ABCD.
At the same time, you have, like you mentioned, Ludo earlier, which is going nuts right now.
Yeah.
So what's it going to be going forward?
So I see that there being two markets as well. One is your tier 1 or tier 2 market, which is going to be games that are going to be targeted, like global games, like Clash of Clans is played at tier 1 as well. People get it. More people from tier 2 will start playing those kind of games, and there will be eventual shift. But predominantly for the next 2 years, if you look at just numbers in terms of daily active users, the casual games like Ludo, Runners, driving games, these are still going to be very, very popular in India. Just in terms of number of users. But if you look
we're
at
talking tens of millions of users a day.
Yes, now Ludo King publicly released the numbers of 10 million daily active users in India. First Indian app, in my opinion,
with
gaming.
that kind of active,
with
right?
that
And
kind
this
of.
is the few kids in Bangalore.
No, Ludo King is in Mumbai.
Oh.
So it's a game company based out of Mumbai, and. I've been hearing crazy things. The few kids of Bangalore is actually Ludo Star,
Oh, yes.
which
the
has
other one.
become immensely popular in Middle East.
Okay.
Ludo is very popular in Middle East. Who would have known? Yeah. And it's making money there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See?
it's making money there.
And this is and I've played it.
Okay.
It's making money simply I think just to kill your frustration, you have to pay money.
That's what all these games are, right? I mean, like, I've only ever once bought Candy Crush, and that's because I couldn't get past one particular level.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's built to do that. It's like, come on, I'm so close, get me there.
But that's what it is. So that's
Yes.
going to be the biggest, you think it's...
No,
gonna be the
so
biggest sector?
I see this is the trend of 2017. Obviously, 2018, we're going to have a few more new games that are going to come in.
Right.
2015, Teen Patti was really a big thing in India. It still is. It's still growing. It's not like it's dying down. So social casino is obviously going to be a very important genre, for someone who's entering gaming in India.
Right.
But someone who's doing a casual genre, it's not certainly defined what to do next.
Yeah, because they could be hit and miss also.
Yes, there is a lot of hit and misses there. Like 10 people released Ludo, but Ludo King worked. Right. So what made that work and not the other 9? Well, really we have to analyze and do deep down and then figure it out. But that's something which you have to keep trying to get the next big
and
hit.
there will be random... I mean, we referenced Pokemon Go earlier.
Yeah.
So again, AR, VR, use new tech, but jumped up and now it's, I think, dying. Or not dying,
Not
but I would
dying,
say...
it's changing, it's evolving.
It's evolving, but
Yeah.
they raised a ton of money as well, I think, to
so
figure something
200 million there is in Niantic.
Well, I think the idea is just AR gaming, right? I mean, like,
Yes.
Pokemon Go is a very simple, dumb implementation of what AR gaming can be.
So now they're doing a Harry Potter game where you can actually
Fly
use the
around
phone.
on sword, sticks.
The phone becomes your you can cast spells on other players and
in
things
the
like
real world.
Yes, and
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a interesting...
yes, that's crazy.
What do you want to tell entrepreneurs and folks who are looking to join this crazy world of
Yes,
gaming?
so next 3-4 years is going to be crazy in gaming growth in India. I think this is the time to get into it. Gaming is a great leveler. Like I said, it's a hits and miss business in the casual space, where even 4 guys sitting out of Bangalore can achieve success, and all of us who are sort of so-called 7 years in the industry are still figuring out why this works. Yeah, so it's a great leveler that ways. But if you want to get into in-app purchases and mid-core and hardcore stuff, I believe we are now, it's not India, it's like there's content which is there working for India. It is we are competing with the global content like Clash of Clans and Candy Crush. So your quality level have to be right up there.
Right.
And I just don't mean quality in terms of graphics. That's more in terms of live ops and product work.
Right.
That you
And
have
so that also involves high quality teams, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're looking at hiring high quality folks. I mean, do you think the talent for that exists in India abundantly?
It is less, of course. I mean, in HQ and Shanghai, we have around 2,000 people, 8 studios, and 30, 50, 60 people research
You
teams.
also have a building,
Yes.
so and a private jet.
Yeah, that my CEO has.
So, well, if you have $4 billion in revenue or net worth, I think you can afford
I mean,
that.
the part is they're crazy. They grow very fast, right? It's 2009, the company got incorporated. 2014, they IPO'd. India doesn't move like that. I was just telling him that, we were we are like an elephant. We start slowly, but if once we start running, you don't know how fast we move, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Nothing stands in our way.
nothing stands in our way. So I think gaming is that elephant now. It has started picking up pace. So
Nice.
that's gonna be the future. In 2-3 years, it's gonna grow up big.
Nice. All right. So thanks so much, Anuj. I mean, this was a whole power-packed episode about gaming, which with a whole lot of stuff even I didn't know about, right? And I hope, like you said, we get more talent into this scene. We get a lot more people thinking around the concepts of gaming, and there's so much to do. I mean, even if you're a psychiatrist, I guess you can get a job in gaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's only for people who have grown up on Nintendos and
No, it's not. It's for
consoles.
everybody.
It's for everybody. So
Yes.
let's hope more stuff like this happens. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having
People
me.
can catch you on Twitter. Where?
Anuj_Tandon at Anuj_Tandon.
Perfect. So let's
Yeah.
hope some folks reach out.
Cool. And just to remind you guys, please go to please subscribe to the Slack channel. Go to ivmpodcast.com/Shunya1, and over there's a button which says subscribe to Slack. And if you click on that and send us your email address, we'll send you back an invitation.
Yep.
And also reviews, iTunes, please. 5-star reviews on iTunes. That would be good.
Absolutely. And who knows, we will look to see some interesting new stuff from Anuj and Yoozoo and the gaming market at large.
Definitely.
All right. So Anuj will be there on Slack as well.
he will.
Let's jump in with any questions.
Yeah, if you have any questions, please ask him.
Definitely.
We'll get him to answer them.
Okay.
Sure. Thanks. Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me, guys.
Did you know that Parsis in Mumbai, instead of being left at the Tower of Silence after they die, are now cremated? And why? Because a cow fell sick in the early 1990s. Did you know that the smog in Delhi is caused by something that farmers in Punjab do, and that there's no way to stop them? Did you know that there wasn't one gas tragedy in Bhopal, but 3? One of them was seen, but 2 were unseen. Did you know that many well-intentioned government policies hurt the people they're supposed to help? Why was demonetization a bad idea? How should GST have been implemented? Why are all our politicians so corrupt when not all of them are bad people? I'm Amit Verma, and in my weekly podcast, The Seen and the Unseen, I take a shot at answering all these questions and many more. I aim to go beyond the scene and show you the unseen effects of public policy and private action. I speak to experts on economics, political philosophy, cognitive neuroscience, and constitutional law so that the insights can blow not only my mind, but also yours. The Seen and the Unseen releases every Monday. So do check out the archives and follow the show at seenunseen.in. You can also subscribe to The Seen and the Unseen on whatever podcast app you happen to prefer.
Every week comes a show where 3 people come together to tell you about stuff they like. A movie, a TV show, a book, and other stuff. Tune in every Monday on the IVM Podcast app to IVM Likes. Batman approves this message. Thank you, Batman.